everyone could be here with us. And for our guests watching live or watching the replay, we're just really honored that you're here with us. Today, we have some incredible panelists, and we'll be discussing the topic of empowering ourselves, empowering each others. And in this Conversations That Count, we encourage you to get really excited about all of these beautiful panelists who are going to share their innovative self-empowerment tips that I know are going to enrich your life. And this is a group of intimate panelists that we've handpicked for this specific topic. Everyone is an expert in this topic, and so that we can really take these conversations deeper for everyone that's here watching. We encourage your interaction. And of course, showing up live is the best way, not only to learn from the experts, but to engage in the conversations, to get your own questions answered. And we encourage you to join us in all the upcoming topics and classes and gatherings and events on your journey back to self-love by becoming a member of the Sacred You.Love community. And you can sign up for just $1, and I'll be putting the link in the chat in a bit. And so now we just ask you to sit back and relax and get ready to become empowered as we talk to our lovely guests. And I'm just going to introduce everybody briefly so that you have an idea of who we have. And so Jennifer is next. I don't know how everybody's lined up, but Jennifer's right next to me. So Jennifer is she's an author and a soul-centered empowerment coach at Lighting the Path, where she aligns visionaries with their passion and mission so that they can make the world, a change in the world, and experience deep satisfaction in their life. And Naomi helps women have an unshakable relationship with themselves. Her coaching activates women to reconnect and reclaim their inner light so that they can live their life with joy, meaning, and compassion. And then we have Tina, who's a restorative health guide, mindset coach, and Akashic Records consultant. Through Infinitely You, her signature method, she helps high-achieving women heal emotional wounds so they can be happy, healthy, and thrive. And then we have Eva, who's a certified NLP life coach, hypnotherapist, mindfulness meditation teacher, and spiritual healer. And she's passionate about helping women find the power to create their own life, stop being a victim, and have a voice in their relationships. And I am Lisa Mizels DePamphilus, and I help women entrepreneurs embody their infinite light so that every day feels magical, no matter what's going on around them. And I use an energetic recalibration process that allows them to access their superhuman abilities and shift timelines and finally receive all the things that they desire. So that is us. And welcome, panelists. So happy to have you here. So let's just go around the room and hear from each of you about what this topic of empowering ourselves, empowering each other means to you, and why it's so important. So I'll just go the way that we were introduced. Jennifer, do you want to start?
Sure, I can start. Hello, everyone. Well, I just imagine this world in global coherence, in global harmony. And to be able to do that, there's a shift that we move from judgment and coming from a place instead of compassion, and moving away from just tolerating our differences to really appreciating our differences. So coming from that strength, and in that strength, strengthening others as well, and just having that passion to celebrate each other in this global coherence.
I love that. That's beautiful. Perfectly said. Naomi, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just love that, Jennifer. It's just beautiful. And I think you spoke to that really beautifully about the vision that you have for the world. I think that the world is really asking us very, very deeply now and very powerfully to shift our paradigms of power from this external power over, which is crumbling. Sometimes it doesn't look like it's crumbling. It doesn't feel like it's crumbling. It feels like it's rising up even more sometimes. But that's just proof that in fact it actually is starting to fall away. And more people are really, I believe, being called and feeling this sense of stepping into their own power and this different paradigm of power that's internal, that's where we live power-filled lives as opposed to power-fueled lives. And I guess a little thought that's been rising up for me over these last few days is, and I'm sure we've all heard it, hurt people hurt people. Damaged people damage people. And so here's the thing, empowered people empower people just by the very nature of stepping into that power, by accepting, acknowledging and building through compassionate processes, through kindness, as you spoke to, Jennifer. I believe empowerment actually is one of the greatest acts of self-love and of love. And I believe it is that shift where we're moving from a fear-based world more into a love-based world. And the more of us that actually step into this power, just by the very virtue of claiming it, even the tiniest little bit, in the tiniest little part of our lives, in just one simple little way, I believe that we move into that higher vibration, that vibration of compassion that takes us to joy. And as we are in that vibration, by the very nature, lower vibrations entrain to that. So we bring people along for the ride. Whether they realize it or not, they start to just step into this way of being as well. So yeah, I think that's what's really important for me. And it's just being that light unto others, and holding people in that space. So yeah, this is just an amazing, amazing thing to be able to get together and discuss and share.
Yeah, thank you, Naomi. We are all on this journey of expansion and raising our consciousness and raising our frequencies. And it's so important to be the role model just by being, just through your beingness, so that you can emit that frequency for other people, whether they know it or not. It's all helping. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Tina, did you want to share?
Thanks. Yeah, so for me, it's been about my own personal journey. I was out of my power in my marriage for a long time, and I had to reclaim it. And so in reclaiming it, I discovered boundaries and standards and loving myself and taking care of myself and surrounding myself with people that are also going to be part of that process and help me heal and help me grow and expand and lift me up. And now my desire is to do it for others as well. So it's been an interesting journey because I avoided women for a very long time, because growing up, it was too much drama and, the stabbing in the back and all that kind of thing. And so when I became more in my power, I realized that there are also women who are wanting others to rise. And so it's been a really interesting journey on the female part of things, as well as my own personal development, and just realizing that being in your power means being true to who you truly are, and not taking anyone else down or putting anyone else down, but being in your truth. And that doesn't mean that it's anybody else's truth, and that's okay. So it's just been a very interesting journey. I love this topic, and I think the sexiest thing is a woman in her power.
Yes, amen to that. I believe that as well. And it's so interesting that these challenging relationships that we have, they're the other person is our best teacher. There are teachers as we go through life, so that we can learn more about ourselves and become empowered and really stand in our truth and be yeah, be the truth of who we are. I love that. Thank you, Tina. Eva.
Yes, hello. In my own experience, I've been in the process of empowering myself and others almost the whole life since I was a kid, I think. And then it started to be my full-time job. And I came from Poland. So in our culture, in our tradition, the women, they had a role behind the men and to dedicate ourselves to the family as a wives and as a mothers and to the family as a sisters, to others as a helpers, and so on. So back then, as I lived in Poland before 15 years ago, so it was my job to help other women as I helped myself first, to step out of this role and to empower myself and find the power inside of me. Who am I really? And not to be a victim anymore. And we can observe that there is like a global phenomena that the women's circles, the meetup groups for women, empowering meetups groups, circles for women, we can find everywhere in the world, like millions of those groups, and the women are helping each other, support each other to empower ourselves. So this is like a global phenomena, and it's wonderful because we need to have a voice. We need to find our inner power, because we are designed by God, divine universe, whatever you say, designed to be remarkable. We have so many skills, even if we are not acknowledge these skills. Our brain, the feminine brain, is designed to be genius. So if we allow ourselves to use those skills, to use those gifts, it will be also beneficial for the whole community, for the whole world. And I think the men, they also they start to see us differently, and because we can see us differently. But I know this is not a easy process. We need to work on it because we have a very deep subconscious programs. We've been put on this role behind over centuries. So this is written in our body cells, in the subconscious minds, very deep. So we have to work on it, to lift up, to get up, to wake up, to feel ourselves who we are, and to have a courage to talk about it, to be this person. For me especially, because I am Australia, it's my second home, and this is my second language as well. But still, this is the same. I work with women here because the women needs to be supported. And for me, for myself, as much I help others, I help myself, because I have to wake up in the morning, first of all, and get rid of the weaknesses, doubts, moods, and everything, and get up and feel myself empowered to help others to be empowered as well. So this is my job, and I'm so honored to be part of this panel, because this is very, very important for us women to find a way to be ourselves again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. And it's very interesting how different cultures are at different kind of seem like they're at different stages of evolution with this women's empowerment. And it's so great to be the one to really spread the message through who you are and just through who you've been all of your life, it sounds like. So that's fantastic. Thank you all for commenting on that. And one of the things that came up for me when you were all talking, I think everybody mentioned it, was boundaries. So I would love to have a discussion on how setting boundaries can really help us empower ourselves and empower others. So would anybody like to start the lead on that? Just go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to talk. Yeah, Eva, go ahead.
Setting the boundaries is also very important part of my job as a life coach for women especially, but I work with men as well. And I developed the tool, the way to set the boundaries, which are not much a coaching style, but more like mindfulness meditation, applying the subconscious programming and connection with the higher self. So this is very, very effective to setting the boundaries this way. It's all about to setting the boundaries of your own personal energy field, which you create this energy field. This is not only the aura, this is the whole expression of yourself. This is the information about you, what you think about yourself, what you believe about yourself, how you feel right now, your past, your present, and also your future. And this personal energy field, I call it the hologram of the personal energy field. It needs to have a boundaries, not to allow the toxic people, toxic thoughts or emotions enter and distract your already developed true self. So we practice the mindful breathing to get into the very center of yourself, of your consciousness, and into the center of your energy field. Expand the energy field because you expand your possibilities. This is the field of every possibilities. This is the field of your capacity, of your remarkable being. And then you're setting the boundaries. You can visualize those boundaries, the surface of the energy field, like being stronger, being solid, and you program those boundaries that it protects you against any toxic energies of people or beings or thoughts or emotions, but it's open for anything which is positive for you, healthy, and empowering for you. And it helps a lot because I believe that what we think, what we feel, what we believe about selves or others, how we feel at this very moment, this is a compilation of the millions of influences. We are all connected. We are all connected. So the thoughts of a friend of mine, the stress of my mother, the anxiety of my neighbor, and so on. And the people, if you are a coach or healer, or you work with people, you're helping people, then you absorb their feelings, you absorb their fears, you absorb their moods, even if you apply the different ways of clearing yourself. Mm-hmm. But I can tell it is like more than 25 years I'm doing this job. And at the beginning of my journey, professional journey, I was absorbing everything. And now I'm not. And even if it's happened, those boundaries with this program, like you program like a computer, you know, those boundaries, what you allow to enter, what not, what is not. And it's,
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I was curious if anybody else had like a practical example that they could share with our listeners that would help them? Because Eva, you were talking about energetic boundaries, which is amazing, because we all need those energetic boundaries. But what is it like in everyday life when somebody needs to set a boundary? What does that look like? Does anybody want to talk about that? Yeah, Tina, I was going to ask you.
So for me, boundaries was one of those things that I actually had to research because I was so out of boundary. I don't even think I had any. So it's about making sure people know what you want and you desire, making sure that you put limits and or boundaries on either disrespect, not allowing it, or you're having a positive conversation about how it's happening and how you feel about what's going on. It could be about being an entrepreneur at home and making sure your family doesn't step into your boundary of the office space within a certain time or parameter. So it looks different for different people in different scenarios and situations. It could be also at your workplace and your boss is being very aggressive with his or her tone or the way they're treating you. And it is your right to set the boundary to say that's not okay.
Yeah, I love that. That's well said. And I think, a lot of us, when we're first learning out about this kind of stuff, we do have to look at, well, what does this mean? People are talking about boundaries. What does it mean? Because if you've never felt empowered, if you've never been, stood in your truth and in your power, you don't know what boundaries look like. You don't know how to, whether it's, practical skills of stating what you want, or whether it's energetic boundaries. It's a learning curve for most of us on this journey. So I appreciate both of you, sharing about boundaries. Naomi, what came up for you? Did anything come up for you around boundaries or anything else with self-empowerment?
Yeah, I just so resonate with both of you, Eva and Tina, in those things. Tina, myself, of a person, boundaries, I had no concept of what a boundary really was or how to set one, how to hold one. I think sometimes we can fall into that, especially if we're a person who's perhaps been giving to a lot of people, or there's lots of expectations upon you, and you can get into, we wear that mask of people pleaser and, the various roles that masquerades around as. And for me, boundaries has been a really, really long journey for me. I think it's to be honest, it's years of really trying to figure out what a boundary is, how do I place it, how do I keep it, and I'm still working that out. And what was coming to my mind was, and you triggered that a little bit for me too, Tina, the memory was, I could be working on something myself, and perhaps, my husband comes home and of course he wants something or needs something, or he's just trying to tell me about something that's happened in his day, and working things through and everything like that. And I can be like right in the zone of something that I'm working on or doing, or I'm trying to, just contemplate something, just work through. And a really, really simple thing was, now, the thing is, it's really interesting. It's the feminine, the masculine, like the dynamics of the energies. And so we don't really want to shut down like either of those dynamics. And for me, it would be like, I would probably just rise up and shut him right down, like I'd give up, I'd attend to whatever it was his, and then I'd try to go back to where I was working, and I would have obviously lost my flow of thought, where I was going and what I was trying to achieve. or I would then start to probably the first thing with boundaries, when people, what I've noticed when they first get into the idea of boundaries, is they're really rigid and it's really strict and it's all about me and you will not cross my boundary and that is it, you know, kind of thing. And I think, you know what, that's the natural process. I think it's really important that when we find ourselves and we come across other people who are perhaps at that stage of learning how to set a boundary and how to integrate it into their life, is that we just come back to a space of kindness and compassion and self-love, you know, and just accept, okay, this is the best that I can do with this right now, and I'm handling it the best way I can. And what would be a more softer way, a gentler way that's still strong, that I could have actually just set that boundary or held that boundary or had that conversation. And so for me, I started with, husband would come in, you know, either in his excitement or in his frustration, and I would then go to the, I'm going to shut that down, you know, to, honey, I would just, you know, it's the power of the pause, take a breath, just come into your body, because when somebody does come into your boundary, it can very easily take you out of your body. And I think that's part of empowerment, is actually being in our bodies a lot more than out in the other planes. Like we've got to integrate the two. So we've got to bring that down into our bodies. And so that power of the pause, take a breath, just pause for a few seconds. For me, I always like to see the other person through the eyes of love and as the innocent pureness that they actually are. And then I can speak to that, and then I can turn and say, honey, I'm really, really want to hear what you've got to say. I want to hear about what you've struggled with today or what was really exciting for you. Could you just give me a minute, or could you just give me 15 minutes? Whatever it is that I feel I need to finish the task that I was on. If you give me just 15 minutes just to complete this, I'm going to be fully present with you, and then we can sit down and we can share our days, and you can share what you've got. So I think
so much better.
Yeah, that was one of the first ways for me, because I must admit, you know, I was like, oh, boundaries, same thing, like, boom, don't come into my boundary. This is my boundary, get out, kind of thing. And I've noticed that with people starting out. So yeah, I think it's being that gentleness, taking a pause, becoming present, breathe down into your body, feel like, imagine the roots from your feet going down into the ground, so that you are standing in it. And then you can speak from that place and say, I just need this now. Even in the preparation for today's discussion, I've had this week friends who are just wanting to be in my presence. They're wanting to be with me, which is beautiful. I want that. I want to sit and enjoy my friendships and make the time for them and the space for them. But I felt myself becoming overwhelmed and thus overpowered by them wanting to be with me, and me feeling obliged to then go and give my energy to them. And 2 times this week, we've said, oh, yes to something, and I've actually rang up and actually had to say, hey, I really, really do want to get together with you tonight, or whatever it was. I've got a lot on my plate right now. I'm preparing for a few things. I'm getting some things organized in my business, and I really just need the space to be clear and centered. And if I spend the time with you, I'm really not going to be fully present with you anyway. So, you know, can we just readjust that time? And
it's being truthful.
Letting them know I truly want to be with you. Yeah, I truly want to be with you. I really want to spend time. I also want to spend that really quality time with you. And I wouldn't be authentic if I actually just went feeling all of the extra pressures that were upon me. It wouldn't be a beautiful container for us to sit in anyway. So I guess they're the things that, even immediately have been coming up for me, even just this week as examples, and just gentle ways of setting them. What we tolerate continues. So it's asking, what am I prepared to tolerate?
Yeah, that's a great way to state it. And I think I'd love to hear from Jennifer with the heart coherence and how that has to do, because you talked about, Naomi, I've talked about, coming from a place of love, unconditional love. And we've been talking a lot about unconditional love in my tribe this month. So I would love to hear from you. But first, we have some audience members, and I'd like to know if you have any questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat. And we actually have a question here. So Josette says, great tool, Naomi, the power of the pause. Do any of the other panel members have tools to use to identify when a boundary is needed? So Jennifer, I wanted to offer that to you first, if you wanted to take that question.
Yes, the power of the pause is a good one for sure. Creating that space between a demand and response, for example, just giving some room for that, not feeling like you have to answer right away. One of the things I want to address first is that there's a common misconception that boundaries create walls, and they actually don't. They create freedom from attachments to having to be a certain way, to act a certain way, to do something for someone that might be expected. And the freedom to be able to choose and be willing to set up your own experience. So that's one of the tools, is to really do some of the inner work on what you're choosing to experience. What are you willing to experience? What kind of experiences, qualities, people will you invite and allow into your space? And what will you just not participate in? That's also very important. So just getting really clear on that for yourself, because you'll actually emanate those psychic or energetic boundaries around you in that regard. And to be careful of feeling like you have to defend or explain why you're not accepting an invitation to do something or go out somewhere. And to be really solid in being able to say that this isn't a good fit for you right now, or no, thank you, or, maybe with some other time, and let that be enough. And to be able to choose a path that is most nourishing and productive for you, and knowing what that would be. And when you're in that flow, then it's so much more useful to people, because like others had said too, because you'll have more energy, you'll be putting your best foot forward, you'll be available and willing and present to really be with that other person. So also setting up in terms of how you want to be showing up in a relationship or with your family and so on. So really thinking about that, but also understanding two boundaries is also about directing your time and your energy. So tools around effective time management as well, and setting up time for when you're going to check emails, for example, or what days of the week you'll do appointments, or what days of the week you'll have a family dinner together or some family time. So setting up time in your week ahead of time, having to actually schedule that creates a boundary around that. Anything that we kind of plan or set intention for, we create a boundary around. And so boundaries is not much different if you want to think about it as setting an intention for how you want to be experiencing, how you want to be directing your time and your energy. So really thinking about that for yourself and not being so externally focused on how you're going to explain that to someone else. How are you going to be able to say no? And it's not so much about what you're saying no to. Maybe you can think about it as what you want to say yes to. What are the absolute yeses? And anything that's not an absolute yes for me, it might be a maybe, is a no. Or at least definitely not right now. And then it becomes easier to make decisions to that. It's a really effective decision-making tool to be able to set intentions and boundaries of how you want to be spending your time and your energy and how you're going to be directing that. And so thinking about it as freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom, having that space around you to be available for when inspiration hits, or for when someone calls you up and you can say yes, because you're not so busy and overwhelmed.
Creating that space.
Yes.
Creating a space for, and I think a lot of my years, I didn't even know what I wanted. And so I think when we're starting to become empowered, it's about asking yourself, well, what do I want? Because so much of our lives have been spent in habit and program of pleasing other people, or thinking of other people first, and not thinking of yourself. So I love that, freedom of choice. It does create so much freedom when you have the space, to be your truth, to be in your most empowered state. Then you can be more benefit to other people. Then you can be the role model to other people. Does anybody from the audience have any questions? You want to type it in the chat? If you do, I'd love to have the panelists answer questions from our audience. Makes it fun. Or if you want to unmute yourself, you can talk too. Yeah, Josette's saying, thinking of boundaries as freedom, easier to conceptualize when to set a boundary when you think of it in terms of yes or no, like absolute yeses or nos. Yeah, I think that's great. It's perfect. Tracy or Miranda, did you have any questions? Or anybody on the other live streams? Nope. Okay. Well, then let's continue with this great discussion. I think we can move on from boundaries. Jennifer, I'd love to know more about heart coherence and how that helps you become empowered.
Yes. Well, our heart is also the area of our soul chamber and our center. Well, part of our center. And the heart coherence is really being able to find answers in the heart. That's faith, right? Finding answers in the heart. The coherence is when we're listening to that call and we're hearing it, and we're building a relationship with that so that we're aligned with our soul's calling and how it's guiding us, how soul is guiding us. And in that heart space, we also tap into our deeper passion and the way our true passion, and the way I see passion, when you break up the word, it's pass I on. And that I is your soul's expression, your heart's expression, what lights you up, what guides you, what shines. And when we're radiating that light of who we truly are, every one of us doing that, we create a brighter world, right? Because everything's just lit up. We reawaken that wonder of life. We create reverence for life, and we come into that global coherence because we're playing our own tune, right? And we're moving at the beat of our own drum and finding our own internal rhythm and pace and pat. So that passion, that pass I on, that I being your soul's expression, is what gets passed on in this lifetime. So being able to tap into that, being able to align with your soul's calling, your heart's calling, what makes your heart sing, for example, some people would say as well. And being able to also gather the confidence and the courage to be able to step into that fully and to be able to express that. And then we come into that harmony when everyone's playing in their tune, in their drum, in their sound, and that's transmitted through voice, through our energy. Then we come into that heart coherence, that global coherence, that global harmony, because we harmonize, not trying to be anyone else except who we truly are. And that's what we pass on. That's our spirit. I always say, free your spirit to direct the life that you were meant to live, because spirit is what is remembered when you leave the earth, right? I've been to many, many, many funerals in my lifetime, had a lot of different loss. And it's an awakening through the grief that happens too, because you get really clear on what matters, what's really important. And you become more aligned with your values. But having been to all those funerals, I also hear what people would talk about with their loved ones that have passed on, or a community member or a beloved celebrity or whoever. And it's that spiritual energy, that soul essence that they radiate that is remembered, because they've passed that on. That's true passion. And that comes from the heart.
That's beautiful. And, it's so important for us all to be our authentic self. We're talking about becoming empowered and heart coherence and dancing to the beat of your own drum, because we are meant to be our own expressions. We are meant to be our own beautiful lights, and not the same as anybody else, because then that would be everybody'd be the same, how that would not serve us. And so I think for a lot of us, it's remembering to come back to who we truly are, and releasing the layers of who we're not. So that's beautifully said. I love that. Global harmony, how everybody's, yeah, that's beautiful. I wanted to ask the other panelists if you wanted to say anything about this concept. Eva or Naomi or Tina? Yeah, Eva, go ahead.
So I'd like to say that for me, to tune into the authentic self, it means to be in the state of the centered state of consciousness. It means tap into your core, who you truly are. And this is possible only if you are able to get rid of this chaos. Because being your authentic self, it means that you think your own thoughts, you feel your own feelings, you're going in your own direction, not others. So the technique of being in the center, expanding the aura field and setting the boundaries, the whole technique, I call it the centered state of consciousness, because it's this is a compilation of few states all together. And to being authentic self and being not like a aggressive, don't enter my my aura, don't enter my territory. No, if you are in the centered state of consciousness with the setting, and you are setting the boundaries, you can be your authentic self. You can be again very sensitive women who don't need to fight and even don't need to protect ourselves, because this energy field you're sitting inside, you're creating, it's not only energy field. Please understand that this is your mental field, this is your emotional field, this is the field of information, the story about you, who you truly are and what you believe you are. And if you're setting those boundaries and you are in a centered state of consciousness, it means that you can be yourself. You can be yourself. And I'd like to answer also the question, what tools to use to identify when a boundary is needed. I believe that first you have to identify yourself, who you are. If you are yourself, who I am, how I feel, what I think, what I can do, what is my desire, what are my dreams, what is my posture, what is my body language, how I talk, everything, who I am. And then everything what is not this creation, it's not mine. So for me, the tool to identify that I need to set the boundaries means, oh, I don't feel myself anymore. So you can feel it, just check it. And again, about this technique, centered state of consciousness with those boundaries, I taught the people who try to learn how to talk to other people, to let them know that they are empowered and they are who they meant to be. Sometimes the people even they learn how to talk, how to modulate the voice tone, or they train with the body language to say, this is my territory, this is my boundaries, this is who am I. They are not authentic because this is only the training, and they are not authentic. So to being authentic, to saying this, to saying these words, to being this person, you should be in the center of yourself. So you can apply many techniques. There's so many, but the most important is to learn how to breathe mindfully, because the breathing is related, connected with your brain frequencies, with your nervous system, with your heart, with your higher self, with your subconscious. So the changing the rhythm of the breathing and focusing on yourself helps you to tap into your core. So first of all, I believe it's to learn how to breathe deeply.
That's a beautiful tip. Thank you so much for kind of circling around with, completing that thought for us, and giving everybody a tip on how to empower themselves so that they can empower others. I'm going to ask each of the panelists if they can give us a tip. So Tina, did you want to start and just share a tip that maybe will help guests feel more empowered?
So as women, often, as we've discussed, we're people pleasers, we're last on the list if we're on the list at all. And we have a tendency to constantly take care of everybody else. And so for me, being in your power is, as everyone has said, is knowing who you are. And there's layers. So as we've grown up as children, we've had beliefs that have been instilled in us over the years, right or wrong, conscious or unconscious, and the layers weigh us down and take us away from the truth. So saying no is one of the biggest ways to stand in your power. And you don't have to say no with the explanation, as Jennifer had mentioned. It could just be a solid no. I'm not available for that. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be aggressive. It's just stipulating what your desire is. And if it could be no, not right now. It could be maybe later, or just no. It's a full sentence. So it's important for us to understand that it is in our control how others treat us. And we also have to respect how we then treat them. So when I've been going through my separation with my ex-husband, I had a choice at some point to be in my power, but what did that look like? Was I going to be belligerent? Was I going to pick a fight with him? Was I going to be disrespectful to him as he was to me? And I stood in my power and my truth. And I decided that if he wanted to sling it, it was up to him. I could walk away. I could, there were a few times where I actually just kind of stared at him in disbelief on who he was being. And it didn't affect me because I was in my power and I wasn't available for it. So it's just, there is an energy about it, just like Eva has mentioned as well. It's just being so solid with knowing who you are, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're willing to accept, what you're willing to participate in, and then stepping into that.
Beautiful. Not reacting, but responding from a calm, centered point of view. Yeah, it's a great tip. Thank you so much, Tina. Naomi, did you want to provide a tip for the listeners, our audience here?
Yeah, I'm loving what Eva and Tina and Jennifer have already shared. They're just such powerful insights and practices to embody. And I think, look, our language is very, very important. Words carry power and energy. You look at the sacred texts. If we talk to the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. So our words carry power. And I think perhaps for me, especially when starting out on this journey myself, it starts with that awareness. And one of the ways was to become aware of the language that I was using, obviously the things that were coming out of my mouth, and then the conversations that were going on in my head. And really, yeah, just starting to pay attention to them, hearing the kind of words that come up, and even listing them, like writing lists. Note the things the word that keeps coming back, both the ones that might be negative and the ones that fall into the positive category. And then those that look at them and say, is this language adding to me, or is it taking away from me? In terms of my power, my energy, my focus, and how I'm showing up in the world. Am I showing up in my light, or am I showing up in my smallness through this language? So I think, first of all, become aware of it. Make lists, note the words that you're using all the time, feel into them. How do they feel in your body when you say it? Either internally or outernally, or outernally. That's now a word, by the way, outernally.
I love it.
Or if people are using that language towards you. There's a reason people are using that language towards you, probably because that's what's going on inside your inner conversations as well, right? So that's just a reflection. But how do these words feel in my body? Do they feel grounded, strong? Do they feel soft, expansive? Do they feel restricted? Whatever it is. And so the ones that don't feel so great in our bodies, switch them out. And then start to notice the way we're responding. So I think, I think all of Jennifer and Eva and Tina have all spoken to the way as women we really have been conditioned to, be the lesser than, the support, the behind, the under the male, whatever, in our smallness, not in our greatness so much. Okay, we've really been conditioned, and part of that is then so we learn not to actually speak up or speak out. Okay, in order that we feel so that we're not a threat, so that we're more likable, and so start noticing that language and things like when you are asked something or in your conversation, notice, do you say, I think, whatever it is? And there's nothing wrong with that, because clearly, yes, it's something that you think. But I think what I've noticed is that we tend to go to that because it's a little bit of a safer language, and practice switching it out with, here's what I know, here's what I believe, here's what I have found. Dare you say, in my opinion. My thoughts include. So there is a place for, I think, because we are referring to the things that we are thinking. But when we are actually asked something or sharing something, notice those languages, the way we language it, and practice shifting it out. Make a list of those. How can I change? This doesn't feel as strong or as empowered. What's another way of expressing that? And write them out and practice them. Writing things down is really important, because that's also part of the way that it wires into our neurology as well, because really we have to embody these things. It's not enough to just think about the things and read about the things and ponder upon the things. This is really important. To be reflective is there's so much power in there. That's where we find our gold. But it's these taking of these actions and getting really clear on things. I think that's really powerful. Very much changing, notice your negative language. How do you switch it out to the positive language? Look at, where am I playing a victim in a circumstance or in my life? Journal on that. Meditate on it. Sit quietly for a few minutes, just breathing with that intention of wondering, journal on it. Find where you're playing the victim, and then how can I, and also journal, where am I playing the hero? Or where am I stepping into my hero? Where am I stepping into my leader in life? Get really clear on these, and then look at how can I cultivate this more? What actions can I take? One little tiny action could I take every day that over a period of even 30 days will really change the trajectory of the way I'm living my life, the way I'm expressing my life, and how I'm showing up in life, and shift us from that victim role that we can all go into, that we all feel at times. And it's really important to love that part of you. Sit with that person, with that part. Ask it what it needs. Reassure it. Say, give it a name. Is it Rosie? Is it Carl? Is it what it, like, give it a name if it's not just your name. Even just speak to yourself. Hey, Naomi, Gnomes, I see you. I've got you. Right. You're feeling a little unsure here. What do you need? And just,
I think it's so important to take the like you were saying, to take the thoughts that we think, become aware of them, and to take the physical action to embody. So it recreates a different pattern and a different program.
yeah.
And that's how it moves us forward. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
and
much.
just love on all of those parts of ourselves.
Love all of them, not judge. Yeah, no judging. No judging means that I just judged. So Jennifer, did you have a tip to wrap up? We have about 2 more minutes.
Sure, I can wrap it up pretty quick. I'll give you 3
Nice.
things. One, just to add to something Naomi said near the end there about victimization and the languages that we can use. One very powerful thing for me was making the shift from I can't to I won't. Your whole body changes, your tone changes from I can't, right? Your victimization to I won't, a really empowered decision. And I'll just give you a do and a don't as far as this topic. Become who you came here to be and do what you came here to do. That's it. That's your do. Your don't break promises to yourself.
I love that. Thank you. Perfectly said. So I just want to thank all of you panelists for sharing your wisdom, for being here with us today, for just speaking your truth and showing up in your empowered self. And for all that are listening, we just encourage you to put all that you've learned into action so that you can really step into that place of empowerment, so that you can make that ripple effect and empower others just through who you're being. So each of the panelists have more ways to connect with you, and they're going to go ahead and pop your links into the chat right now. And I just want to say, stay tuned for next week, when we're going to be talking about stepping into the divine feminine. So you can secure your tickets at our website here, and I'm going to place that in the chat. And then, oops, wait, that's not right there. And then also, while you're there on our site, sign up to become a member of the sacredyou.love community for just $1. And you'll find so much, like it's such an immense value for just $1 to sign up. And this is just going to support your journey back to self-love. So I'm going to pop that in the chat as well. And have all of the panelists, everybody, let's see. Okay, we've got Tina. Eva, did you put yours in there?
Do you have a link to my website?
No, go ahead and pop it in the chat. Just go ahead and type it into the chat so people can grab the chat.
Okay, just a second.
And
I'm just going to jump off mute for a second, because I think I grabbed the wrong thing there, and I don't want to hold everybody up. I'm just in the process of recreating and setting up websites. I've done things very organically through referral and people reaching out to me. The easiest way to reach out to me is just to find me on Facebook, Naomi L. Martelli. I was just trying to find the actual one there. Reach out, send me a DM, and we can have a chat. You know, I can obviously accept your friendship. That's the easiest way to connect with me right now for anything that's upcoming and workshops, etc.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. And yeah, thank you, everybody. This was a fantastic conversation. I think it was super rich for me. And I know that the people who are listening and even other panelists, that, you know, that you got some information out of this too. So thank you again. And we hope to see you next week. We're going to be talking about the divine feminine. You're welcome to come and join us. And I really highly encourage you to join the community for just $1 and check it out. There's so many different things going on. There's so many events, classes, tribes, gatherings, all kinds of great stuff. So I think with that, I will say thank you. And